There's only one match week left in the Premier League this season. So I took the liberty to make my 2022-2023 Premier League team of the season. It's very simple. It's a starting 11 and then 2 bench players for each position, even goalie. Sound off on the comments. Did I get this right? How far off the mark am I? Comment your Premier League team this season. I would love to see what people are thinking. I'll give quick little reasons as to where people are. I'll start with the starting 11, and then I'll give the nominations from goalie to attack. Premier League team of the season, goalkeeper of the year. This is probably going to be controversial. A lot of people are going to call me biased because I have a Liverpool badge on. I think Alisson Becker was the best goalie in the Premier League this season. Yeah, he had some gaffes. Yeah, he didn't have the most amount of clean sheets, but he had some major saves. And without him, honestly, I would expect Liverpool would be somewhere in the bottom half of the league. He has been there time and time again. He has great distribution as a goalkeeper. He had the second highest amount of clean sheets this season. So even then, I think if you're gonna argue on clean sheets, he's right there. Anyone who's watched Becker this season, you will know entirely that Alisson Becker is the best goalie in the league. Onto the defense, and I should note that I have a 4-3-3 set up, a very simple formation. I didn't want to get too crazy with it. So my back line is KIERAN Trippier, Ruben Diaz, William Saliba, and OLEKSANDR ZINCHENKO. Early on, ZINCHENKO was absolutely electric for Arsenal. He really changed how they played. He had an experience to him. He did kind of have a bit of a falter midway through, but then it picked up again, and now he's kind of ended the season with an injury. He didn't play too well in those final games leading up to injury, but I think he's been class this year. And his teammate, William Saliba, has been one of the most entertaining center backs in the league. He's really sharp and talented for a youngster. He does have errors in him still, kind of beaten on the jump a few times when people are crossing in balls for headers. He does seem like he can pick up an injury somewhat. You know, he did kind of get run into the ground, admittedly, by Arteta this season because they just had such an intense schedule. In the Premier League, I think Saliba was phenomenal. Ruben Diaz probably been the best center back in the league for the last couple of years, I would say. This season, I think Diaz has been one of City's, if not their most important defender. You could make a case for John Stones, but Stones didn't play too many games. I'll kind of explain my exclusion of him from this list later on, but I think Ruben Diaz has been great this year. You know, City's won the league. You gotta factor that into consideration to an extent. And I think that he's the most important defender there. I do think that Ake and Akanji have really stepped up and kind of shown that they're not necessarily reliant on Diaz in the way that a lot of people would suggest. At right back, I have KIERAN Trippier. I think KIERAN Trippier has been absolutely class this year. Newcastle's best player, maybe the best defender in the league, I would say. Absolutely revolutionary to that back line and is doing great things. Camera's dying, so let me just start rolling through this. My midfield 3 is RODRI, Martin Odegaard, and Kevin De Bruyne. RODRI is a quality midfielder for City. He's been absolutely great this year. And I wrote this list like a week ago, and Gundogan has really played incredible to end the season off, but I think what RODRI offers is such a profound stability in the center of the park for City that it's really unbeatable. Kevin De Bruyne just speaks for himself, really. Kevin De Bruyne's got like 7 goals, 14 assists this season, is the best midfielder in the world, and he has been for the last few years. I absolutely rate De Bruyne. Hate that he's on City, but De Bruyne is class. Martin Odegaard, explosion of a season. He played really well last year, but this year he's proving why he's Arsenal's captain. He's the best player in that team by far. He's one of the most special players in the league. It makes sense as to why Martin Odegaard was signed to Real Madrid all those years back, and Arsenal fans should be really happy to have him. Then the front 3. This will also be really controversial. My front 3 is BUKAYO Saka, Erling Haaland, and Mohamed Salah. Let's get into Salah right off the bat. A lot of people will say, oh, you know, you're biased, you're a Liverpool fan, obviously, you know, you're gonna think that Salah deserves a spot in the team of the season. I will say that he has had an off year by his standards. While Salah is having an off year, he has 30 goal contributions with a game left to go. If that's an off year and he doesn't deserve an inclusion in Team of the Season, 19 goals, 11 assists, might score 20 and 11. That's pretty crazy, I would say. At the end of the day, I think he deserves a spot. I think it's justified. Erling Haaland. What do you want me to say about Erling Haaland that hasn't been said already? I thought he would struggle at the start of the season. Proved me wrong immediately. Had a phenomenal year. Erling Haaland is just a ridiculous athlete, a ridiculous footballer. Just fantastic all around. Scored some fantastic goals, scored some poacher goals, but he scored them all. But Bukayo Saka, I'd say he's Arsenal's best player this season. I'd say he offers them a lot down that right flank. He's just so creative, technical touch with his finishes and his passes. Ultimately, Saka is just one of the best players in the league this season. He's been phenomenal. Nothing short of impressive. There was some moments, where Saka wasn't the absolute top best level of Bukayo Saka that he could be, but that doesn't take away from a brilliant campaign from him this year. Let me just get into my nominations now. I'll have my whole team in the description below if you want to check it out. But in goal, my 2 honorable mentions this season are Aaron Ramsdale and Nick Pope. I think Aaron Ramsdale made some huge saves this season for Arsenal in that. I think he was very great at several points. I think he also could have done better than what he did. There was a few moments where he just let in some howlers where, you should be saving that, Aaron. Second honorable mention, Nick Pope. I think he had a brilliant year too. Very few mistakes, minus that game against Liverpool where he got sent off. He has let in some more goals in the second half of the season, but that first half of the season was immense from Nick Pope and Newcastle. On to the honorable mentions for defender. I have 2 defenders here. I was thinking, do I do a fullback? Do I do a center back? Do I do 2 center backs? Do I do 2 fullbacks? I decided at the end of the day to go with Fabian SCHAR of Newcastle and Nathan Ake of Man City. Ake's played at left back and center back at several points this season and has just looked phenomenal. He was great for City last year, and this season he's up another level and been one of the best defenders in the league. I just felt like SALIBA and Diaz, they kind of just narrowly eke out Ake. Fabian SCHAR as well. He's a man who's been with Newcastle for several years now, but is finally kind of reaping the successes at the ripe old age of 31. I've heard Fabian SCHAR described as a Rolls-Royce center half, and I would totally agree. He's just been one of my favorite players in the league for several years, as even when Newcastle weren't the best, I loved seeing Fabian SCHAR play. He's scored some absolute bangers in his days, and I'm just happy for him, honestly. On to my 2 honorable mentions in the center of the park for midfield. I feel like, my list so far, I kind of, I don't have anyone from Brighton. I don't have anyone from Brentford. I don't have anyone from Tottenham yet. I was going to have Alexis McAllister on this list, but then I looked at the stats some more before shooting this video, and I kind of was just like, you know what? I can't have Alexis McAllister. He's a phenomenal player, and I think he's a better player ultimately long-term for what he can provide than Bruno Fernandes, but I think Bruno Fernandes has to be one of them. It's either him or Casemiro. I didn't want to have both of them as honorable mentions. That felt just off because Casemiro did miss some games with suspension this season. Those few suspensions kind of shadowed him for me as a nomination here. My 2 players in midfield, my 2 nominations are Bruno Guimaraes, Bruno Fernandes. He's got, like 12 plus goals and assists this season. He's been captain for United for a good stretch of the season. And I don't rate him at all as, a captain. I think he's overrated as a player, but he's had a great season and United has finished 4th. And I think if you take out Bruno Fernandes, that squad is significantly different and a lot worse. But Bruno Guimaraes, another one of my favorite players in the league to watch. He is absolutely magical. He is a gem. Congratulations, Newcastle fans, because Bruno Guimaraes, one of my favorite midfielders in the league. Rodri's contribution to City, Odegaard's leadership at Arsenal, and Kevin De Bruyne being Kevin De Bruyne just kind of forces him out of a stacked midfield, I'd say. My 2 nominees for honorable mention for Team of the Season attackers in the Premier League for the 2022-2023 season Callum Wilson and Harry Kane. Harry Kane, you know, Tottenham have had a really poor finish to their season. It's been kind of diabolical, let's be honest. I think most Tottenham fans would say it's been diabolical. Sacking Conte, then sacking Stellini, now going with Mason. Just wayward. Just generally wayward. You're not sure what's going to happen with Harry Kane. He is going for the all-time Premier League goal scoring record, I would think. And he's probably going to want to do it with one club as well. You know, he's chasing Jimmy Greaves, so who knows, does he stay, does he go? But, you know, he's gotten 30 goals this season, like 5 or 6 assists. He's been great. Harry Kane is everything to Tottenham. Can't help but feel immensely sad for Harry Kane at several points, just because he is such a great goal scorer, but his team just lets him down time after time, whether it's in goal, in defense, in midfield, sometimes in the forward line. They're just not good enough. Congrats, Harry Kane, you're on my team of the season list. And Callum Wilson, I know I said, oh, you know, like player availability and, you know, all that. Callum Wilson has been injured at several points this season, but Callum Wilson has had quite possibly one of the best ends to a Premier League season I could imagine. He is older, Callum Wilson, but he is at an age where he's in a Newcastle squad who's going to the Champions League now. If you haven't seen my last video on that, check it out. He's scored a ton of goals at the end of the season, and I just really am happy for him. I think he deserves a spot on this list. I will have more videos to end the Premier League season with awards and kind of like, you know, best transfer, worst transfer type of videos. I'm just going to kind of look at the season in retrospect until the transfer window really starts, kind of roll out a bunch of content surrounding that. So if you want to see more of that, stay subscribed, turn your notification bell on if you really want to, give the video a like if you liked it. Give me your team of the season in the comments. Once again, I would love to hear from you guys, and thank you so much for watching. I'm Sideline Sedo. Peace.